The hum of conversation filled the diner, punctuated by the clatter of plates and the hiss of the coffee machine. The place was alive with the familiar rhythm of a weekday morning rush. Waitstaff wove between tables, balancing trays laden with steaming breakfast plates, their smiles practiced but genuine. Among them was Lisa, a young black waitress who had worked here for years. Her energy and warmth made her a favorite among the regulars. Today, however, the air carried an unusual tension. Seated at a corner booth, a man in his mid-50s drummed his fingers impatiently on the table. His crisp white shirt and tailored jacket suggested wealth, but his expression hinted at something darker, disdain. From the moment Lisa approached his table, his tone had been clipped, his words laced with condescension. "Well, isn't this taking forever?" he sneered as she placed his coffee on the table. Lisa maintained her composure, offering a polite smile. "I apologize for the wait, sir. It's a busy morning, but I'll ensure your food is out shortly." Instead of acknowledging her effort, he smirked. "Busy morning? Or are you just slow? Maybe if you paid more attention, you'd be better at this job." The insult landed heavily, but Lisa's years of experience helped her mask her hurt. She walked away, gripping the empty tray tightly, her thoughts racing. The other customers noticed the exchange. Some glanced at Lisa with sympathy, while others buried themselves in their coffee cups, unwilling to intervene. The diner's atmosphere shifted, the warmth replaced by an uneasy chill. Unbeknownst to the man, Lisa had faced moments like this before. She knew how to endure, but today, something felt different. She glanced at the framed photo of her late mother on the diner's wall, a tribute to the woman who had inspired her resilience. Lisa inhaled deeply, a seed of determination growing within her. This was more than just another rude customer. It was an opportunity to stand up for herself and perhaps teach a lesson that would leave an impression far beyond the walls of the diner. As Lisa returned to the kitchen, she couldn't ignore the way her hands trembled. She placed the tray on the counter and took a deep breath, steadying herself. "Shake it off," she whispered under her breath. But the sting of the man's words lingered. Behind the counter, her co-worker Marcy, a fellow waitress and close friend, gave her a concerned look. "You okay?" she asked, her voice low enough that only Lisa could hear. Lisa forced a smile. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just another customer having a bad day, I guess." But Marcy wasn't convinced. You don't have to just take it. That guy's out of line." Lisa shrugged. "It's not worth it, Marcy. People like him don't change. They just are." Marcy leaned in. "Maybe not. But sometimes, standing up isn't about changing them. It's about reminding yourself of your worth." Lisa mulled over Marcy's words as she prepared to head back out. The man's voice carried across the diner, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Where's my food? What's taking so long? Or is it too much to expect decent service these days?" Several heads turned, and an older couple at a nearby table exchanged uncomfortable glances. One younger patron, a woman with a laptop, looked as though she wanted to say something but hesitated. The man's words cut through the room like a knife. Lisa approached his table with measured steps, holding his plate of eggs and toast. She placed it in front of him with care, her expression neutral. "There you go, sir. I hope you enjoy your meal," she said, her voice steady but firm. Instead of thanking her, he scoffed. "Let's see if you managed to get this right." He picked up his fork, poking at the eggs. Overcooked. Typical. A hush fell over the diner. Lisa felt a flush of heat rise to her cheeks. She opened her mouth to respond, but before she could, the man spoke again, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Maybe you should consider a different line of work, something that doesn't require so much effort." The words hung in the air, heavy and cruel. Lisa's pulse quickened. She could see the discomfort on the faces of the other patrons. Some looked down at their plates, avoiding eye contact. Others shifted in their seats, clearly uneasy, but unwilling to intervene. Lisa stood still for a moment, her mind racing. Every part of her wanted to snap back, to tell this man exactly what she thought of his behavior. But she knew that anger alone wouldn't change anything. If she was going to respond, it had to be meaningful. She glanced again at the photo of her mother on the wall. Her mother, who had always taught her to face challenges with grace and courage. Lisa straightened her posture and met the man's gaze. "Sir," she began, her voice calm but firm, "I understand that you're frustrated. I'm sorry if your experience here hasn't been up to your expectations. But I want to remind you that respect goes both ways. We all have bad days, but that doesn't give any of us the right to bring others down." The man raised an eyebrow, clearly taken aback by her measured response. Before he could retort, she continued, her tone unwavering. "I've worked in this diner for years. I've served all kinds of people, kind, patient, and sometimes not so kind. But one thing I've learned is that how we treat others says more about who we are than anything else. I hope you enjoy your meal." Lisa turned and walked away, her heart pounding. She wasn't sure how the man would react, but she felt a surge of pride. She had spoken her truth, and for now, that was enough. Behind her, a murmur of approval rippled through the diner. A woman at a nearby table gave her a subtle nod of encouragement, and the younger patron with the laptop even clapped quietly. The man, for his part, sat frozen in his seat, his fork suspended midair. He seemed to be processing Lisa's words, though his expression remained unreadable. Lisa returned to the counter, exhaling slowly as she wiped her hands on her apron. The tension in her chest began to ease, but she couldn't ignore the weight of what had just happened. She caught Marcy's approving grin from across the room. "That was something," Marcy whispered as Lisa passed by. Lisa gave a small nod. "I just couldn't let it slide this time." Meanwhile, the man at the booth sat in silence. His fork hovered over his plate, but he hadn't taken a bite. He stared out the window, his expression less smug and more contemplative. It was as if Lisa's words had reached a part of him he wasn't ready to confront. The atmosphere in the diner began to shift. Customers who had been on edge started to relax, their conversations picking up again. The younger woman with the laptop stood and approached the counter. "Excuse me," she said, her voice low but steady. "I just wanted to say that was really brave of you." Lisa smiled, a flicker of warmth breaking through her composure. "Thank you. I wasn't sure how it would go." The woman hesitated, then added, "It went better than you think." People needed to hear that. Maybe even him. She nodded toward the man at the booth before returning to her table. Lisa glanced over. The man now appeared deep in thought, his posture slightly hunched as if weighed down by something. Minutes later, he flagged Lisa down. She approached cautiously, unsure of what to expect. "Can I help you, sir?" she asked, her voice even. He cleared his throat, his earlier bravado noticeably absent. I just wanted to say that maybe I was out of line." Lisa blinked, surprised by the admission. The man fumbled with his words, his discomfort palpable. "I've been under a lot of stress lately, and well, that's no excuse. What I said to you, it wasn't right." Lisa studied his face, searching for sincerity. To her surprise, she found it. His tone, his posture, they all pointed to a genuine moment of reflection. "Thank you for saying that," Lisa replied. "It takes courage to admit when we're wrong." The man nodded, his eyes dropping to the table. "You're right about how we treat people. It does say a lot about us. I guess I needed that reminder." Lisa offered a small smile. "We all need reminders sometimes." As she walked away, a sense of closure began to settle over her. It wasn't just about the apology. It was about the shift she had seen in him, however small. Over the next half hour, Lisa noticed a change in the man's demeanor. He thanked her when she refilled his coffee and even left a generous tip when he paid his bill. As he exited the diner, he paused by the counter. "Have a good day," he said, his voice softer than before. "You too, sir," Lisa replied, and for the first time, she believed he meant it. As the door closed behind him, Marcy leaned over. "Well, I'll be damned. You actually got through to him." Lisa shrugged, a smile tugging at her lips. Sometimes, people just need someone to remind them of what they've forgotten. The day carried on, but the incident lingered in the minds of everyone who had witnessed it. Lisa moved between tables with her usual grace, but there was a quiet confidence in her now, a sense that she had taken control of a situation that could have easily left her defeated. By the time her shift ended, the diner had returned to its usual hum of activity. Lisa gathered her belongings and paused to look at the photo of her mother on the wall. She felt a deep connection to the values her mother had instilled in her. Values of resilience, dignity, and kindness, even in the face of adversity. "See you tomorrow," Marcy called out as Lisa stepped outside. Lisa waved, the crisp air invigorating her as she walked to her car. The weight of the morning had lifted, replaced by a quiet satisfaction. The next morning, as Lisa walked into the diner, she noticed something unusual. A small bouquet of flowers sat on the counter, alongside an envelope addressed simply to Lisa. She frowned, glancing at Marcy. "What's this?" Marcy shrugged but grinned. "It came in this morning, hand-delivered." Lisa opened the envelope and pulled out a note written in neat, deliberate handwriting. "Dear Lisa, yesterday, I behaved in a way I'm not proud of. I don't know why I chose to take my frustrations out on you, but I realize now how wrong I was. Your grace and strength in responding to my behavior showed me something I hadn't been willing to see in myself. Thank you for reminding me of the importance of kindness and respect. I'm sorry for the way I treated you, and I hope this small gesture can convey my regret. Sincerely, John." Lisa read the note twice, her heart swelling with a mix of surprise and gratitude. She placed the note back in the envelope and looked at the flowers, a vibrant mix of sunflowers, daisies, and lilies. Marcy peered over her shoulder. "Looks like you made quite an impression." Lisa smiled, but it wasn't just the flowers or the note that moved her. It was the realization that her actions had sparked a genuine change in someone. Over the following weeks, Lisa noticed subtle but meaningful shifts in the diner. Customers seemed more aware of their interactions, treating the staff with greater kindness and respect. The younger woman with the laptop became a regular, often exchanging warm smiles with Lisa as she worked. Even Marcy seemed inspired. One afternoon, she stood up to a rude patron herself, borrowing Lisa's calm, yet firm approach. "Guess you're rubbing off on me?" she joked later. For Lisa, the experience wasn't just about that one man. It was a reminder of the power of standing up, not just for herself, but for the values she believed in. She knew not every confrontation would end the same way, but that didn't matter. What mattered was the courage to try. Weeks turned into months, but the lesson Lisa had taught that day continued to ripple outward. It wasn't just about one man's apology or one moment of courage. It was about the lasting impact of standing up for what's right. The diner became more than just a place to grab a quick meal. It transformed into a space where people treated each other with greater empathy. Lisa noticed more smiles, more genuine exchanges, and fewer instances of the rudeness that once felt like a daily challenge. John, the man who had mocked Lisa, returned to the diner a few weeks after the incident. This time, he greeted her with a polite nod and placed his order with a tone that was almost apologetic. Though he didn't mention their previous encounter, his behavior spoke volumes. He tipped generously and left with a quiet "thank you" that Lisa knew was sincere. Lisa reflected on how a single moment of kindness mixed with strength could challenge someone's perspective. It reminded her of her mother's words. "You can't control how people treat you, but you can control how you respond." One day, the younger woman with the laptop approached Lisa as she was clearing a table. "Hey, I just wanted to say thanks again," she said. Lisa tilted her head, puzzled. "Thanks for what?" "For that day. You stood up for yourself, and it made me think about how I handle situations like that. I'm a teacher, and I've started encouraging my students to speak up when they see or experience something wrong, but to do it with the kind of grace you showed. It's made a difference." Lisa's heart swelled. "That means a lot. Thank you for telling me." The woman smiled. "You inspired more people than you realize." As time passed, Lisa found herself reflecting more deeply on the power of her actions. She started volunteering at a local community center, sharing her story with young people who struggled with self-worth and resilience. She used her experience to teach them that their voices mattered, even in the face of adversity. Her story gained attention, spreading beyond the walls of the diner. A local journalist heard about what had happened and approached Lisa for an interview. At first, she was hesitant. She wasn't looking for recognition, but the journalist convinced her that her story could inspire others. The article was published with the headline, "A Lesson in Grace: How One Waitress Changed the Conversation on Respect." It resonated deeply with readers, sparking conversations about the importance of kindness, empathy, and standing up for oneself. Lisa began receiving letters and messages from people who had read the piece, many of whom shared their own stories of similar challenges. Months later, as Lisa stood behind the counter of the diner, she glanced once more at the photo of her mother on the wall. It reminded her of how far she had come, not just in her work, but in her understanding of her own strength. Marcy leaned against the counter beside her, sipping a cup of coffee. "You ever think about how one moment can change everything?" she asked. Lisa smiled. "Every day. Think you'd do anything differently if you could go back?" Lisa shook her head. "Not a thing. Sometimes all it takes is one voice, one moment of courage, to remind people of what really matters. And sometimes that voice can make all the difference." As the bell above the door jingled and a new customer walked in, Lisa straightened her apron and prepared to greet them with her trademark warmth. The lesson she had taught and learned remained a part of her, shaping her interactions with every person she met. The diner was just a small corner of the world, but to Lisa, it was proof that even the smallest acts of courage and kindness could spark something far greater.